truth-seeking, heart-reaching, knowledge-leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of meager means. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dreams. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't. Really, it ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun. It's an everyday theme. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I rest in peace. They remember me, but I am not Haram Beef.
mypdfbooks.com. That's books with a Z.
Once again, this broadcast has been brought to you by mypdfbooks.com. That's books with a Z, where reading funds the mental. Also brought to you by bindedbooks.com, where treasures are bound. Don't forget to check out Herbs of Mayat and get your Mayat Sons teas, divinely prepared, the tea of teas. Also, having musical stylings by Brian Hicks Bay. Check us out at bhbaymusic.com. Also, for your everyday items and your religious regalia, be sure to check out morrishaberdasher.com. And for that everyday especial Morris drip, be sure to check us out at morsachi.com. And all of these companies are powered by ALO Design Pros. Peace, 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 peace. Peace and love, fam. How's everyone doing today on this beautiful Sunday? As you see, Sheik is on his way to the airport. So, he's here to attend Sunday school, and we're having it nonetheless. But without further ado, we will be giving our Moorish American prayer, and then we'll be getting into our aims. So, Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Shalom Alakim, Ayah Asha'ayah, Hotep, Islam, Amen, and peace, 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 peace. So continuing to our aims, scientific study will illuminate the student that Yahweh, our Elohim, God, the creator of the stellar and ecclesiastical universe, has stipulated in all Bibles, regardless of the translation, a pattern that he, Yahweh Elohim, gave Moses in Mount Sinai in the year 1490, BBY, erroneously referred to as BC. It is by a profound knowledge of the construction and operation of this divine pattern of the Mosaic tabernacle in relationship to every created object in the universe, whether visible or invisible, that will reveal the answer to every question concerning Yahweh Elohim and Yahshua the Messiah, as he really is, and his eternal purpose and plan. The Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School is not a church, but a school of research founded with the idea in mind to delve into every branch of science according to the pattern of the tabernacle, man made in the image of God. Allah, also known in more science as the acronym standing for arm, leg, arm, head. To find the answer to every question that has plagued the student from the foundation of the world, thus proving the unerring accuracy and infallibility of the Bible. In research and study, we always use the true Hebrew names of the unity of the Spirit of the so-called Godhead. Instead of the title God as the Father's name, we are using the correct Hebrew name, Yahweh. Instead of Jesus Christ as the Word or Son's name, we are using Elohim, which is the correct Hebrew title of the Father, Yahweh, in super and corporeal form. For the Holy Spirit, which is Yahweh Elohim manifested in a physical body, we are using the correct Hebrew name, Yahshua the Messiah, These holy names may seem to be of private interpretation, which we, the Burning Bush Tabernacle, have invented, but through research and study with a good encyclopedia or dictionary, anyone can discover for themselves of this great error. There was no letter J in any language until the Middle Ages. Neither was there ever a letter equivalent to the J in the Hebrew language. Therefore, such names as Jesus or Jehovah are impossible renderings of the true name of the Father and the Son. Here at the BBT, our aims are as follows. 1, to illuminate the student to find and know Yahweh, our Elohim, as he really is and exists. 2, to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood of humanity in Yahshua the Messiah, without distinction of race or nationality, creed, sex, caste, or color. 3, to investigate the unexplained spirit law. Once again, 3, to investigate the unexplained spirit law, or so-called law of natures and the powers latent in man. 4, to encourage and promote the study of the scriptures, comparative religions, psychology, philosophy, modern, practical, and occult sciences. 5, to remove spookism, superstition, skepticism, and ignorance. 6, to learn, to know, and to understand the operation of Yahweh's eternal purpose through the dispensations and ages. 7, to discern and avoid being deceived by Lucifer, the serpent, the devil, the dragon, or Satan and his demons, operating the mystery of iniquity on earth through the dispensations of time. 8, to earnestly contend for the common salvation and faith, which was once delivered to the sons or children of Yahweh. 9, to make known that Yahweh, from the beginning, ordained there is no other name given among men whereby man can be saved, saving the name Yahshua the Messiah. And last but not least, aim 10, to inherit eternal life now in the kingdom of Yahshua, the Messiah, with the hope of immortal glorification in the new earth state. And with that, I say Islam, amen, and peace, 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 peace. So peace and love, fam.
Peace. Peace.
So for today's Sunday topic, we will just be dealing with an open study on nationality and spirituality. You know what I'm saying? And some things that should be eye-opening as to why and how they are important. So as we proceed, if anyone has anything they would like to add to the study, feel free, because the floor is open, but we will have a document readily available for everyone to view.
Peace and love.
Peace and love, peace and love. So, dealing with true and divine law. There is but one Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. This is from the Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 35, verse 1. And it reads also, he hath instituted laws for the government of the world. He hath wonderfully varied them in all beings, and each by his nature conformeth to his will. And this is also from the Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 35, verse 10. As a Moorish American, we are instructed to know thyself and Allah. This is the law. The science of Moorish science, also known as knowledge of self and or the path or way of life. So we will also be taking, short, not breaks, but actually delving into some of the definitions and getting to the meat and potatoes of some of these words, right? So in dealing with the law, some may ask, what is the, right? So we can delve into thee by using a word known as theology, because its prefix is thee. And it's also composed of a word, ology, which means study of. So let's find out what thee really is. And theology is just the science of religion, the study of God and his relationships to humanity. Philosophical study of Christian doctrine, scripture, and directly from the Latin word theologia, from Greek theologia, and it means the account of the gods. From theologos, one discoursing on the gods. This is from theos, and this is the word closest to thee, which is theos, and theos itself, it means God. So, taking what we know from that etymological understanding and dealing with the law and understanding what theos means, meaning God, we can see that the law is just God's law, correct? So all law is established in truth. Gratitude. All law is established in truth, which is the holy breath. At, Allah, or all law. Truth is that which changes not. And since we're using Allah, just so those who are not familiar with that term, they can have an understanding of what Allah means. Allah is just an Arabic name for the supreme being, or just another word for God. So a person who speaks Arabic, they would say Allah, but for a person who speaks English, they would say God, but they both would be referring to the same being. So all law is established in truth, which is holy breath, art, Allah, or all law. Truth is that which changes not. In the divine instruction for man, it is understood that in all law, in all the world, there are two things. One is truth. The other is falsehood. And falsehood is that which seems to be. Now, truth is ought and has no cause. And yet it is the cause of everything. Falsehood is not. And yet it is the manifest of right. And whatever has been made will be unmade. That which begins must end. And this comes from the Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 7, verse 4, or ayat 4 through 7. Continuing to read, it says, man is truth and falsehood strangely mixed. Man is breath made flesh. So truth and falsehood are conjoined in him, and they thrive, and not goes down. And man as truth abides. So man being the truth is saying here, in layman's terms, so to speak, that the truth will always remain and the falsehood will always cease to exist because it's something that has been made. And this comes again from your Moorish Holy Quran. Now, dealing with the book called Law Governs All Events, it reads, laws for civilized governments, their religions, their sciences, philosophy are grown out of this force of nature, and it is in its natural development constituted by a prophet of Allah, one who is sent to deliver the law, which we have gone over and we understand that is God's law, and appropriate and appoint those faithful to the truth, which is a trustee for the greatest development of his people to the highest potential, which is the nature of its source, that being truth. In essence, all true and divine laws come from Allah, and due to the divine nature of Allah, the laws from Allah to man are to guide, to instruct, to a perfect state of being, or being of peace itself. It is the need for civilized man to develop ways and paths to better comprehend true law, or the force, more comprehensively understood the will of Allah, and institute civilizations that harmonize with that will. I.e., the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Divine and National Movement, the Kingdom of Heaven, a religious body politic, a divine nation state established in 1913 AD by the will of Allah through his holy prophet Noble True Ali. Likewise, with the Burning Bush Tabernacle established by his holy prophet, Sheikh Khari Goodman Bey. In the development of civilization, the will of Allah, which is love and truth, which is also known as the law, is the law of all natural law. Natural law is existence as it is, being what it is, functions as it is, as it functions according to the laws which make it what it is. So natural law is the given truth. It is the consistencies that make existence able to be what it is at all. Natural law is given truth. And remember, man is also truth and falsehood strangely mixed. When the law begins to emerge in human consciousness through observation and application of natural law, which are thoughts, thinking, words, deeds, or actions in the natural order of evolution, you have what is the most fundamental of all law. The most fundamental of all human laws is the law of economics or commercial law. Commercial law is the third law. It has to do with human survival, with human interactions of any kind, any relationships, buying, selling, trading, or relating in any way, which gave rise to the fourth law, which is moral law, or the law of the family. The definition of moral law is a general rule of right living, especially such a rule or group of rules conceived as universal and unchanging, and as having the sanction of God's will, of conscience, of man's moral nature, or of natural justice as revealed to human reason. Next, which is overlooked in most societies when understanding the applications of law in its root, is the law of the family, or better yet known as the law of nations, or the law of one's forefathers, the laws of one's vine and fig tree, which gave rise to the nation's state or government laws to protect the family member against any other nation or people, or another family member in itself. So, just for biblical references, so that some of us may have a better understanding of the phrase vine and fig tree, or law of one's forefathers, I have used some biblical scriptures. So let me get right to those. I'll pull those up for you so you can see for yourselves. So, firstly, as dealing with the vine and fig tree, under their vine and fig tree is a phrase quoted in the Hebrew scripture in three different places: Micah 4:4, 1 Kings 4:25, and Zechariah 3:10. A president known as George Washington used this phrase multiple times in correspondence throughout his life, and one can find Washington's reference to it almost 50 times. Of the three passages, it is most likely that he is citing Micah 4:4 in his writings. So, Micah 4:4, after dealing with the vine and the fig tree, and it says, "But everyone shall sit under his vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. For the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken." And just to give you more biblical reference, we can go to the 1 Kings, right? And it says something similar. 1 Kings 4:25 says, "And Judah and Israel dwelt safely, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon." And as you can see so far, it says everyone shall be able to be under their own vine and fig tree, and basically have no harm come unto them for being under such auspices, right? But we have one final scripture from Zechariah 3:10, and it says, "In that day declares the Lord of hosts, every one of you will invite his neighbor to come under his vine and fig tree," which is, you know what I'm saying, in a simple way, saying that you shall be able to invite people to come under your customs to experience what you have to offer as a people, or also as a nation. So let's continue. And I'll reread and reiterate. Next, which is overlooked in most societies when understanding the applications of law in its root, is the law of the family, or the law of nations, or the law of one's forefathers, the laws of one's vine and fig tree, which we all should be able to sit under and not be harmed, which gave rise to the nations, which is the state or government laws to protect the family member against any other people, nation, or another family member. The law of nations, or international law, which is that bringing your neighbors into your own vine and fig tree, that's international, right? May be defined as the body of rules and principles of action which are binding upon civilized states in their relation with one another. Another way of seeing this is nationality is the order of the day. From this emerges government's common law. Common law emerged in England around 1100 AD during the Dark Ages, as the Europeans called it. In reality, it was during Moorish rule in these lands of Albion that the law, which must be delivered by a prophet, right, was being revealed until their Renaissance, so as to lead to the second half of the Kali age until it was over with. Common
Can
law
we
was
break down
developed.
the can we break down the Albion part? I don't think a lot of people might not even know where that is.
Yes, sir. The floor is free. Islam.
Uh, Albion is the name, the modern day name, or today's modern name day as we know it is England or Great Britain.
Okay, Islam.
The ancient name for Great Britain is Albion. So just to correlate the time of modern understanding to ancient understanding.
Gratitude. And I think that's, you know what I'm saying, that should send up some light bulbs as well.
And people could actually look this up and Google it if they liked as well. People who are listening, you can ask what was the ancient name of England, or what is current day name for ancient Albion, and it'll give you the Isles of Great Britain.
Come on. Educate us, Noble.
With that, I digress. I just wanted to.
Gratitude for that wisdom, gratitude for that understanding. Hopefully, most of us take it and apply it, you know what I'm saying, as we do here. Thank you, Noble Malik.
Gratitude.
Common law was developed to resolve disputes over allodial land boundaries. It is the law of the land. Common law gave rise to the jury system and writs and processes, which monarchy governments have absorbed into their rulership and regulations, and rules made into statutes and processes in court. Common law is valid to the extent that it does not conflict with commercial law. So, just as Noble Malik has provided more, understanding on Albion, I have also provided a short video to help you kind of, understand common law and its processes and kind of how it got its rise. So just bear with me shortly. I got something for you. And if you will be so kind as to let me know if you can hear this audio. duel.
And most people think that a duel is you select your weapon, whether it be knife, gun, sword, and you turn your back to each other, right? How stupid. And you walk off 20 paces and turn around, you walk, right? You get how it will go? If I'm wrong, let me know. We're talking about this. About how they say a duel. You turn your back, the one's behind you, step off 20 paces, you turn around and shoot. Is that a duel? Look, I've seen it 100 times. That's right. That's what they do. That's what they do. Smack on the butt and get all stressed up, right? Turn around and go back, right? Go home, David. Yes, that's the dog. Right. Somebody see that dog. You better fight. Now look, you thought a duel was just a fight. It is not. The real word is duel. Duel is the Latin term. And a duel is a trial. I have to write this word this way. But a trial by Mattel, by Mattel, or judicial combat. This combat. If a duel is a court battle, a duel, well, is a trial, is a court battle. What's key is this word battle, because they tell us that a battle is this, B-A-T-T-L-E, a battle. Right? Physical war. Physical, like war. Physical engagement, right? But, see, in the law dictionary, they can spell it that way. In the law dictionary, it is a battle. And it has a different definition. We all have to study about it. So what's going on here with these partitioning is battle. B-A-T-T-E-L. A battle is a trial by combat. Now, we're in a battle. We're in a battle. That's what happens with us all the time. Every time we record a document, that is a battle. Every time we go to court, that is a battle. Every time we submit as a plaintiff, that is a battle. Every time we go in as a defendant, it is a battle. So, when George Washington lost the battle of Germantown, and he was forced to retreat to Valley Forge, you know the famous story. They ended up there, the ship was cold, no shooting, starving to death, all that kind of stuff like that. Up there in Valley Forge. He was forced to retreat to Valley Forge because he lost the battle of Germantown. What did he lose in Germantown? It was a court battle over something. What was the court battle of Germantown about? Land. Trying to get the people to sign what? Deed. It didn't work. He was forced to go out to Valley Forge, which is far out here, and people knew less. And what did he do out there in Valley Forge? He was able to recover. Then he went on to the battle of Trenton. What happened in Trenton?
Islam. Just like she said, George Washington lost a battle and then went out to seek another battle. where the people knew less. So what they knew was very important. And we will come to see that knowing ourselves, dealing with spirituality and nationality is very important. So what she was dealing with and what she was speaking on was the law of the land, as we were reading here, which is, common law. But once again, I'll reiterate, because it's not an issue, it's a pleasure. From this emerges government's common law. Common law emerged in England around 11 AD, during the Dark Ages, as the Europeans called it. In reality, it was during Moorish rule in the lands of Albion that the law, which is God's law, was being revealed until their renaissance, so as to lead to the second half of the Kali age until it was over with. Common law was developed to resolve disputes over allodial land boundaries. And that's going back to what she was saying with these terms, dealing with duels and battles. You know what I'm saying? Today, we think of them as physical combat, but at that time, it was but combat in court. And as we read, it says disputes over allodial land boundaries. It is the law of the land. Common law gave rise to the jury system and writs and processes, which monarchy/governments have absorbed into their rulership and regulations and rules made into statutes and processes in court. Common law is valid to the extent that it does not conflict with commercial law. From this, we get the 5 echelons of the hierarchical law system. First being the law, which is the will of Allah, or the law of the force, and love is equal to or greater than the law, or love is equal to the law. Next, you have natural law, which is synonymous with truth, and it is equal to or greater than natural law. And next, you have commercial law, which is equal to peace. And also following that, you have moral law, which is equal to freedom, and the law of nations, which is equal to justice. A point of reference needs to be expressed for the adept Moorish thinker. The 5 hierarchy of law are in perfect oscillation with the 5 highest principles of law in Moorish jurisprudence. So you have the law, natural law, commercial law, moral law, and the law of nations. They correspond with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So keep that in mind, because it's just a precursor as to why and how spirituality and nationality is important and how. So the true 5/5 or components of a natural person. The first is spirit, which is the indestructible God essence in man. The second is the soul, actions of the mind's power. And these powers are thinking, reasoning, willing, and understanding. The third is the body. And the body is defined as flesh, the human vehicle made of earth, often indigenous to the land of birth. And 4, which is nationality. And nationality is defined as the descendant birth attachment through a special nation or tribe or free national name, the lineage or identity. And as we just went over, just to take a quick pause, as we just went over, your nationality is where deals with the law of nations, you know what I'm saying, or the law of the families, you know what I'm saying? So you have to have a nationality in order to have these rights or laws enforced, or law powers behind you, forces of law to stand behind you, right? In the 5th, that completes the 5, which makes you a whole, would be your creed. And it is defined as the religious path of God consciousness established through your forefathers, the vine and fig tree. And as we know, Blacks, Negroes, African Americans, etc., they are still considered 3/5 of a human being, not possessing the latter 2, which would be the nationality or creed. And we need these two, or those two are needed in order to be considered a whole person. So the lawful key, the laws of a government that are used to enslave and re-enslave can also be used to free the slaves. In 1865, the grandsons of European Masonic founding fathers legally brought forth on this continent a second new nation. The congressional manumission of the 13th Amendment's abolishment of slavery brought this nation into existence. The new nation then became one family bearing one free national name. They must proclaim their free national status before their government and the nations of the earth in order to be recognized as clean and a pure nation. They cannot be citizens of a free national government while clinging to names that allude to slavery. The only lawful purpose of the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, 3 years later, is to spread assumable jurisdiction of the ex-slaves agreeable to the then powerless Southern Europeans to the courts throughout every state in the United States under the term all persons, meaning commercial property. Reinstituting the ex post facto slave labels of NBC declared abolished by the 13th Amendment. The descendants of ex-slaves being held hostage by the dead badges of law, quote unquote, the 14th and 15th, need only to proclaim their one true free national name to break the judicial bonds that Congress has given over them to corporate America. Equal to the knowledge of self is the law. And as we've seen, well, as the Empress said, George Washington went to a people who knew less in order to take their land. You know what I'm saying? They did not know more, that they did not know enough to defend themselves. So the essence of the word chattel is cattle. Cattle farming of humans in America from its African imports and trades are historically known as slavery.
Brian,
Yes,
excuse
sir.
me, Nova. I think you said a mouthful. You said people don't know how to defend themselves, right? Because when you go into court, it says on your judge will tell you if you ask them questions, and they'll tell you ignorance of the law is no excuse of not knowing the law, right?
Yes.
So you said George Washington went and he lost that first battle. Then he went somewhere else where people knew less. And then you just talked about them having jurisdiction over your basically your body because you don't have the mind and know your rights and your laws. So George Washington went to another place where they knew less.
Come on.
So that says right now the modern day people, NBCs, Negroes, Blacks, and Colors, aka, black people, or aka African Americans, the only reason we get taken advantage of because we don't know the law. We can't apply something that you don't know how to apply, which is the essence of what George Washington did. He went to a people that didn't know how to apply the law and took advantage. So therefore, we've been taken advantage of here in the society because we don't know law.
Islam. I could not agree more.
And people will argue about feeling, about color and all of that and this and that. I said, but you can't argue in the court of law because you are not standing on any facts. You're standing on emotional content, which if you have been indoctrinated by people who don't look like you.
Islam. And just how can you say and not knowing that, right? We know, studying more science, that man is truth and falsehood strangely mixed, right? So we feel like how the passage was saying, until we get away from these names that allude to slavery and get to the truth, until we drop these falsehoods, we can't be seen as natural truth, you know what I'm saying, which comes from, you know what I'm saying, Allah, or comes from God, you know what I'm saying? So we are out of context in that aspect of the law. Well, not we here at the BBT, but you know what I'm saying, speaking for people that look like us but don't think like us, that's true.
Yeah. Islam.
So knowledge of self is the law. The essence of the word chattel is cattle. Cattle farming of humans in America from its African imports and trades are historically known as slavery. Chattel slavery. Slavery itself is not new to the nations of the earth. In fact, at one time, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact they honored not the creed and the principles of their forefathers. And what does it say in Exodus? Just using biblical reference, it says, honor thy fathers and thy mothers, that thy days may be long upon the earth, which God has given thee. So when every nation has not honored their own vine and fig tree and don't have their laws of the family to back them, you know what I'm saying? It says here, every nation has been enslaved, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Slavery is and always has been a divine issue, and it is the Father's way of punishing his disobedient child nations. The
Say
Holy
that again. It's been a what issue? Slavery has been a what issue?
It's been a divine issue.
And that says a lot. Like I don't you read over it, but I don't think people get that part. It's a divine issue.
Come on, expound, Noble.
That means you only comes from the only solution comes from self,
Come on,
because the higher self is divine.
come on, and the divine must
It's
come first.
godlike. Now, divine must come first. When you dismiss the divine, it becomes an issue, a divine issue.
And why? Because all law is established in truth, which is the holy breath. You know what I'm saying? All law, truth is that which changes not. You know what I'm saying? This is a divine issue. When you get out of the divine, you have these issues. When you're not putting the divine first, that's just facts.
Mm-hmm.
There is but one Allah, the author and creator, the governor of the world, the almighty, the eternal. You know what I'm saying? It said he had instituted laws for the government of the world, not just the nation, not just your city, not just your country, but the entire world, the universe. So, yeah, I agree with you, Noble. Just to, back you up, I agree with you.
Islam.
Slavery is and always has been a divine issue and is the Father's way of punishing his disobedient child nations. These holy spankings usually last from 40 to 400 years, according to the sacred records of the human family. Today, Muslims of the East still believe in and also practice slavery, mostly on Sudanese, even though they should have enough practice selling their brothers of African and Islamic descent to the Europeans. Officially in 1492, without Islamic support, the Moors lost their 800-year stronghold on Spain and Italy and ended up here in the colonies. These Moors of Africa, from Hannibal until 1492, amalgamated with the Europeans on the Italian peninsula so much that they created two new nations of people. These sons of Moors are known today as Italians and Sicilians. Is there any wonder why we still love pizza? Why do you think they taught them? Who do you think taught them how to cook, take baths, and go to school? Anyway, back to the Americas. Human chattel farming was based upon the same techniques as any other herd of cattle. Common slave herders quickly became slave masters, as breaking the conscious backs of the Moors. They broke the conscious backs of the Moors first. You get it? They had to deal with the mind. Common slave herders quickly became slave masters at breaking the conscious backs of the Moors. Cattle, regardless of which livestock, are bred, fed, and harvested for their value to their owners. The value of the Moors was the institution of slavery. To secure slave labor, the masters would embed fear and hopeless dependency into the young and yet born where knowledge would want to be. The young were forbidden to learn their history or knowledge of self. Take away the memory of anything and it loses all motivation, direction, value, and purpose. Man, with no knowledge of his national descent or divine origin, falls to the level of the animal and any of the other weaker manifests. So, once again, to also expound on the slave narrative, I also provided another visual demonstration. So, just give me a quick second, and I have another feature presentation for you.
But nobody can practice.
the leaders or the wise ones of the so-called tribe or so-called beehive, they was killed off. So they didn't get a chance to teach the youth, pass the message on. So we used to leave messages orally. And we left messages in songs and stuff like that. So a lot of messages and a lot of history got twisted up, and it was done on purpose. Because when you're going to war and stuff, who's going to teach the children? They come in and kill off the elders. Who's going to teach the children? So then they can implement any kind of education they want to give you until you came from here, you came from there. So the children are the ones who grew up and think they came from somewhere else. And it's all fake knowledge. You see what I'm saying? So now let's look at this. When you got this group of people, this is paid out south. See, because it wasn't slavery, I told you this stuff. See, the cotton movement started in the 1800s, really, right? See, when the Moors was over there in Europe and everything else, right, they dressed nicely. Stuff, they had cotton clothes and all that good stuff. So the New Age 7 royal families that's in power today, and we call them like the Queen of Windsor Castle, which I told you was a Nazi, but not just come out in 1933. She was a Hitler. Just came out. I told you this, but you ain't hear it though. Vatican Nazis, you didn't hear it though. See, everything got twisted upside down. So you think about the swastika, but the swastika is the wheel, the Ezekiel wheel of life, and it spins in 4 different ways. But you ain't heard nothing yet because you thought the swastika was Nazi, and it's the Ezekiel wheel of life. You ain't heard nothing yet, baby. So dealing with these ones that was left in charge of had property and stuff in so-called Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia or Kentucky, wherever they had so-called slavery acts. You can have property. You can have, like in Africa, you have a lot of land. All this property. You ain't got no money. You ain't got no wealth. You got land, but what is you growing on your property? When you don't have no farming skills to grow no crops, how you gonna survive? Y'all don't hear me, no, do you? See, trickery's deep. So when you got people going to war, and then after the war is over, you got some people get confused on who they are, and you still got some free man Moors out here that like they don't get about that war stuff, you know what I mean? Because they deal with the Sultan, you know what I mean? Because they don't deal with the kings and queens, we deal with the Sultan of Morocco, you know what I mean? Because the who sits in Morocco right now is a king, and he works for Rome, he's not the Sultan, you know what I mean? There hasn't been enough the Sultan since, you know what I mean?
You heard what he said, dealing with the Sultan. She today sent some documents speaking about these sultans a little bit. So
But people think they got knowledge. You know what I mean? Play with these people. You got land, you got property, but you can't grow nothing. So here comes the swindler. See, when everybody's going to war, you have the so-called Jew swindler going around into the neighborhoods, and they get them a dude boy, like a little boy back home from Spain, and grow some crops and teach they get you gonna pay you're gonna be my dude boy to talk to them in Hebrew.
The volume cut out, B.
I'm gonna share the profit with you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna give you a couple of dollars up front, some coins up front. So that's sharecropping, which came to be slavery. It was sharecropping. And the Europeans say, hey, look, boy, I'm going to share the profit with you. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a couple of dollars up front, some coins up front. So that's sharecropping, which came to be slavery. It was sharecropping. So the Negro got some little, so-called Negro got some little, dirty bird got some little money now. So now he got some money to go down to the little store and trade goods and get some of the things he needs. You know what I'm saying? Because he wasn't growing no food. See, if they would continue growing food, they would have bartered with each other. Like TLC was trying to get people to barter with each other. But see, they lost the ability to barter and farm and share with their neighbors like it's supposed to be done. So here comes this man in. Next thing you know, he got the deeds to his home. Matter of fact, hey man, since I'm running this show here with all my cotton crops and everything, y'all got to get out the big house and go out there to the back house with the food and stuff like that, because you work for me now. It's your property, but you don't forget because you illiterate. You don't speak the English language, you just signed a contract. Sharecropping. And you're getting just a share of the crops between them and getting that. And you're still saying yourself, oh, you don't know that, you don't know that better. And then they come up with another idea, say, is trade them around a little bit, like trading places around. So you trade, take the farmer John House, go to farmer that. So now you got traded around, and families get this stuff and everything, and you don't even know nothing now. Now here it is 100 years later. Ain't even 100 years later, from 1802 to like 1865. Some style waking up and all this kind of bullcrap.
That's what Malcolm X was talking about, hoodwink and bamboozled.
Servitude in your own goddamn land was sharecropping. Yeah, I ain't heard nothing I said that you have sharecropping. And after that, you really lost. And then some other ones come with the children of these people and came over here. And the ones that came was all businessmen. They always businessmen, so-called Jews. That stored their sticks on the Moors. Ate them and drank their blood. Yes, blood eaters.
So, like he was saying, even in his topic, and he didn't know he was going to be relating to our topic, right? He spoke on families losing knowledge, you know what I'm saying, which forgetting themselves, as well as how some of the land got lost due to people signing contracts for people to grow on their land and becoming, you know, workers, you know what I'm saying, because they got the land, people just got the crop, so it got something, you know, they was businessmen, and they came and kind of use what they knew and what the people did not know against them. And as this went on, what is known as time decay, you know what I'm saying, how as things decay over time, the knowledge was not being relayed of who a certain people was to the children, you know what I'm saying. And that's how they were able to promote the narrative of slavery, even though there was some heinous acts done to a bunch of people. Everything wasn't like, all slavery wasn't like that. So
the other part to add is that through the contracts they stole the people's land.
Yep.
And that's no different than when people get credit cards, they don't know the law. So they get you by paying these high interest rates and things that are actually illegal, or what do you call it? Is they're not illegal, they're lawful, but they're not illegal. Because you sign a contract makes it lawful.
Come on.
So it's a binding contract. So therefore, you gotta stick to it. Same thing as your mortgage. If we understood the word, you know, mortgage means dead anyway. But we're signing a dead debt. I mean, but we don't know these things because we are not as well educated or studied up on the things we choose to use in life. We just go with the flow is, which is popular opinion.
Islam.
Hey, Noble Malik, can I ask something real fast?
Yeah.
I know I was just telling Brian in our text stream all the lost stuff that I've been sharing about that book I got called Poisonous Tree, chapter 2. Read that. And then the text that I put in the text stream of how lost stuff is written in adverb verb. Adverb verb. The law is written in adverb verb. Once you start studying these things and start having these questions, you will know that the court clerk is the key. The court clerk is the key. And we'll talk about that a little bit further when brothers get familiar with chapter 2 of the Poisonous Tree, which I recommend everybody to read. And if you don't have that document, everyone needs it. And it goes with Charles Wiseman information, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All that stuff tying together. Islam?
Yeah.
Islam.
So, taking what we just went over and what we know now, let's reread this passage. Common slave herders quickly became slave masters at breaking the conscious backs of the Moors. Cattle, regardless of which livestock, are bred, fed, and harvested for their value to the owners, you know what I'm saying, which would be businessmen. The value of the Moors was the institution of slavery. To secure slave labor, the masters would embed fear and hopeless dependency into the young and yet born where knowledge would want to be. The young were forbidden to learn their history or knowledge of self. We all know at a point in time, it was illegal to read. So to take away the memory of anything, and it loses all motivation, direction, value, and purpose. Man with no knowledge of national descent or divine origin falls to the level of the animal and other weaker manifests. Man, spirit man, was given a soul to function on the plane of soul where things are made of thought, thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding, and remembering are the actions of the soul, commonly known by psychologists as the mind. These are divine tools given to man from his creator. They did not come from the earth, therefore the earth can never claim their return. Chattel slavery specialized in altering these tools or actions to do the whim of the slave master, meaning, it was a certain type of psychology that was put on these people. This is what made chattel slavery unique and satanic, because it left a person void of himself. Just think of yourself and tell anyone, where would you go if you suddenly could no longer remember where you had been? See how important your identity is. Noble Drew Ali constantly told Moors to think. Think. If I can get you to think, you would save yourselves. The soul of the man will seek out the truth even to the ends of the universe. So although no one has the power to rid man of these actions of the soul, which are thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding, and remembering, man can have these courses of his mind. Man can have the course of his mind altered. If it has been socially altered by systematic powers of man, it is known as brainwashing. Still, the soul remains perfect, even in the bosom of a fool. Although a fool he is, the mind still functions. But what good is it to the fool? This is why he keeps right on beginning, just to start over and over, beginning again and again. So, the great God of the universe that created everything that was, is, or evermore to be, never made a black man and attached him to the human family. The black man, so called, is simply your man-made man. And what we know about things that have been made, right? Anything that has been made will be unmade. Because in all the world, there are two things. One is truth, the other is falsehood. And falsehood, which seems to be. Now, truth is ought and has no cause, and yet it is the cause of everything. Falsehood is not, and yet it is the manifest of right. Whatever has been made will be made. That which begins must end. He was created in the image and likeness of his slave master, the quote-unquote black man, at that time, to be the featherless beast and only 3/5 of a person. Because like they said, a man who does not know himself will descend to the beast-like and other weaker manifests. Every man made by divine design has all 5 parts: spirit, soul, flesh, creed, and nationality. The latter 2 was systematically removed from the slaves of African descent during his chattelization. And this is coming from the Exhuming of a Nation, specifically page 34. So you can look for yourself if you have the document. But if you do not have the document, I would recommend you contact us at My PDF Books, that's bookswithaz.com, or you can contact me or Sheik or Malik directly at our Gmails. This particular someone, after receiving their psychology degrees in Egyptian University about 300 BC, decided to experiment with mind alterations. They figured through physical torture, starvation, and isolation, the fear of death would break the human will from the ability to make choices. This would cause the human mind to no longer seek its natural course for knowledge, but to conform to allotted alternative channels of relief. These methods of cruel and unusual punishment became a way of life to someone's people and were orchestrated by their governments called the church. And just pay attention to the fact that the church was the government, not paying attention to the motives, okay? Working concentrated mainly upon the free nationals of West Africa in the order to mass produce slave labor. However, the application of separation of state and church in the US, they changed the dispatcher of pain from the church to the courts. Needless to say, the esoteric ground for both Christian churches and Christian courts of the U.S. is solidly owned and operated by fraternity members. So the definition of church is Old English from Circe, and it means a place of assemblage set aside for Christian worship. But more importantly, it is ecclesiastical authority of power, meaning it is a law and it's a body of a body politic. Pardon me. The definition of a state is a people permanently occupying a fixed territory, bound together by common law, habits, and customs, into one body politic, exercising through the medium of an organized government, independent sovereignty, and control over all persons and things within the boundaries capable of making war and peace, and of entering the international relationships with other communities of the globe. A political unity, concretely viewed, a state is a body politic possessing sovereignty, and body politic possessing sovereignty is entitled to be called a state. The Moore Science Temple of America was established as a religious body politic by filing the Affidavit of Organization Document 1010-5905, Form 1099, record in the Recorder of Deeds Office of the County of Cook, State of Illinois, on August 1st, 1928 AD at 2:52 p.m. At that time, through this affidavit, Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave birth to a free national government as an ecclesiastical body politic and corporate under the revised statute of the state of Illinois, chapter 36, section 36. Check out the science. July 20th, 1928 was on the third day in the beginning of a new moon during the sign of Virgo. August 1st, 1928 was the day of a full moon, which was it coincidence that on July 20th, 1928 AD, the prophet held a meeting, had the affidavit notarized, and recorded the affidavit on August 1st, 1928 AD at 2:52 p.m. So just dealing more with what the prophet did as it deals with why nationality is important, why spirituality is important, how it all pertains to the law, not just the law we know as dealing with governments, but to spiritual law, which comes from Allah, which comes from a divine source. We will continue to read because we can all see it should be coming full circle how it applies. So during 1912, the prophet took his Western birth name, Drew, before Woodrow Wilson, the governor of New Jersey, who later became the president of the United States. He showed how Drew was born in the state of North Carolina, meaning under the forced application of the 14th and 15th Amendments, proclaimed his birthright to the nationality of his forefathers, the nationality of his forefathers, both ancient and those who worked here as slaves. By proclaiming his free national name, Moorish American, the prophet became the first of his people to break the judicial slave bonds of NBC, through which the USA has held the ex-slaves as hostage under an assumable jurisdiction. Noble Drew Ali, unlike Timothy Drew, is free and was the first of a clean and pure nation of Moorish Americans to present his own constitution of manumissions. Neither he nor his people can be lawfully denied. That's why Sheikh Khari made the Burning Bush Tabernacle as a school to teach people more science. Noble Drew Ali was born Timothy Drew, January 8th, 1886, then certified as a Negro, which is, as we went over, 3/5 of a human being by the state of North Carolina, and we just went over what a state is. By the time he left the body, July 20th, 1929, he was a free man, a Muslim, and a citizen of his own properly declared nation. And this is having to do with his nationality and his spirituality. Ali was the first to be honored and recognized as a part and parcel of a clean and pure nation. Because remember, the founding fathers brought a new nation upon this continent, upon the continent of America. What Drew Ali has done, all NBCs must do, be it the will of the infinite wisdom. Each reader In the course of this book, we'll come to understand the powerful significance of knowing one's true identity. Not only is this information enlightening to the soul, it also reattaches the loss to the human family of nations, tongues, and tribes, albeit the greatest gift from the knowledge of not being NBC is it will permanently cut all bonds off from the U.S. jurisdiction and European subjugation. Noble Drew Ali, born Timothy Drew in the state of North Carolina's laws, was born in the captivity of the 14th and 15th Amendment, January 8th, 1886. But he, as Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, lived the life and left the body July 20th, 1929, upright, independent, and free. Just like Malcolm X, people get caught up in Malcolm X's life, but they forget he became Malik el-Shabazz. What he has done, all Moors must do. Make no mistake about it, they will either take these laws and free themselves or exist as NBC persons and die like slaves. Sorry for the harsh words. Now, you have the case and controversy of the Dred Scott Bay, plus enough public demands to merit its corrected status and jurisdiction. The question of the times is simply this: are the Moorish descendants of former slaves now ready to move their necks and minds from under the 14th and 15th Amendments yoke and laws of the Iron Hand oppression? What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt of contradiction. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his powers extend beyond the great universal creator himself. And this comes from the Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 20. I think I might have wrote that wrong, just to be correct. So, me in studying, I began to ask, as I began to know that these things were important, like how does this happen to a people, right? How do we get so far removed from our vine and fig tree, from the knowledge of our ancient forefathers and foremothers? What could be the tools that were used? You know what I'm saying? Because if we have been reverse engineered, we must reverse the reverse engineering in order to restore ourselves. So I used a few other books, such as the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, as well as a book called Powernomics, as it deals with moral degradation and how we came from, how we descended from the highest planes to the level that we are now, that most of people that look like me are now at NBCs and Negroes and slaves and stuff like that. And it all starts with an attack on the mind. So I'll read a little. If anyone has anything they would like to add, feel free. This is once again an open topic of study. The Tavistock Institute for Human Relations has had a profound effect on the moral, spiritual, cultural, political, and economic policies of the United States of America and Great Britain. It has been in the front line of the attack of the U.S. Constitution and state constitutions. And when you study more science, the more you study, you will begin to see that Noble Drew Ali started putting us back into the fold of the Constitution. So anything on attack that has attacked the Constitution is essentially attacking you as well. Much the same tactics were used by the social scientists at Tavistock to get the United States into World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Serbia, and both wars against Iraq. The fall of the dynasties, the Bolshevik Revolution, World War I, and World War II saw the destruction of old alliances and boundaries, the convolution in religions, morals, family life, economic and political conduct, decadence in music and art can all be tracked back to the mass indoctrination or mass brainwashing practiced by the Tavistock Institute social science scientists. Without Tavistock, there would have been no World War I or World War II no Bolshevik Revolution, Korea, Vietnam, Serbia, or Iraq wars. But for Tavistock, the United States would not be rushing down the road to dissolution and collapse. Classical and Western are the only two civilizations that could bring a modern renaissance to the world. They had flourished and progressed. The unsurpassed beauty of their literature, art, their classics, spiritual and moral advancement of the female sex with a very large corresponding degree of protection was what distinguished Western and classic civilization from others. And when it's speaking about Western civilizations and classic civilizations, it's particularly speaking about America's early civilization with, the people that they encountered when they were first coming here. Tavistock saw the civilization as a stumbling block to the ushering of a new world order, as did the emphasis on protection and elevation of the female sex to a place of high respect and honor. Thus, the whole thrust of Tavistock was to democratize the West by an attack on womanhood and the racial, moral, spiritual, and religious foundation upon the Western civilization, upon which the Western civilization rested. If we understand the mechanisms and motives of the group mind, it is now possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without them knowing. Bernays postulated he called this technique engineering consent. One of his best known techniques of achieving this goal was the indirect use of what he called third-party authorities to shape the desired opinions. If we can influence the leaders, either with or without their conscious cooperation, you can automatically influence the group which they sway. This technique he called opinion making. So as we get into powernomics, the psychological damage that quote unquote blacks have experienced as a result of slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, and racism will pose significant challenges to developing a strong sense of community. These true communities are communities of mind and physical structure within the space. It takes a fully functional community to raise a child and to raise up a competitive race of people. What is a true sense of community and why it is important? A sense of community is the collective thinking, seeing and behaving as a we and not as a me. The majority of society has kept quote unquote Black Americans under various forms of control, physical, legal, and symbolic. The quote unquote majority society through its primary institutions has used rudimentary sociological and psychological principles to control blacks and deprive them of their sense of peoplehood. This is not a conspiracy theory. The facts are evident in the marked inequalities between the races and the continued inappropriate behavior patterns of quote unquote Black Americans. Research suggests that aberrant group behaviors among blacks began in 1710 and are formalized into law when the Virginia colonial government introduced what is known as meritorious manumissions, a public policy that was used to condition and instill internal controls in the psyche of enslaved blacks. This social engineering effectively destroyed most quote unquote Black people's sense of community, trust, and accountability. Through slavery and Jim Crow semi-slavery officially ended in 1865 and in 1954. So we're going to compare meritorious manumissions versus which is brainwashing. American soldiers held in North Korea, prisoners of war camps during the 1950s, and enslaved Black people were psychologically and physiologically manipulated in parallel ways. Both systems were designed to tear people apart. The biggest difference between the two systems was the extreme physical cruelty of slavery. It was a sophisticated form of re-education that operated like a group therapy run in reverse. Brainwashing and meritorious manumissions were designed to drive people apart. The larger purpose of these social conditioning systems was to destroy the ability of the subjects to form natural group communities, develop normal relationships, support, protect, and communicate with members of their own group. Basically, these things were formed to affect the faculties of the mind. You know what I'm saying? We know with the mind, The mind's powers deal with reasoning, thinking, and remembering. And if one cannot remember where he comes from, there is no telling where one is going. The brainwashed prisoners of war who survive are hospitalized and deprogrammed. No such therapy has ever been offered to the blacks of America. Simply put, brainwashing was an intrusive program of dehumanization, physical degradation, and re-education and indoctrination. So, with that being the end of the document, and how hopefully it helps you see how spirituality and nationality is important for ourselves to have these laws of the nation or of our families behind us. You know what I'm saying? Especially when we honor our forefathers and our foremothers by going back to our own vine and fig tree, so to speak. So as we conclude, does anybody have anything they would like to add to the study or to the discussion?
Nah, I just like to say gratitude for this awesome demonstration, opening people's minds to things that we have not been exposed to on a mass scale, especially the people who look like us that identify as being black, aka African American, ancient so-called modern NBCs, Negro, Blacks, and Coloreds that transferred into accepting being African American or aka black as a nationality, which they're not. So gratitude for that. Good demonstration.
Islam. Gratitude for the fam being here. Gratitude for the tribe. Gratitude for us being an example of what knowing ourselves is. You know what I'm saying? Of practicing spirituality and the knowledge of our nationality. So gratitude to you all as well. But if there's nothing else that anyone would like to add, we will be wrapping it up. But before we do, you know what I'm saying, we will close with our Moorish American prayer. Would anyone like to give it? If not, it's always a pleasure for myself. So, seven's high in the sky, if you don't mind. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Shalom Malakim, Ayah Asha'ayah, Hotep, Islam, Amen, and peace, 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 peace.
Peace, peace,
Gratitude
peace.
and love,
Peace,
Ty.
Noble.
Peace, peace, peace.
Does anyone have our benediction? Also, if not, it's always a pleasure and an honor. So I'll recite that. Our closing benediction goes as follows. May the benediction of Allah be upon thee and thine always, as thou shouldst strive to be a credit to Allah. Make haste to bestow thine acts of love upon thy brethren, and do the best to shun thine evil ones. Remember to take suckle of the breast of knowledge, wisdom, fortitude, charity, love, and all standing, that you might nourish the souls of men. Let the truth be the shield and the manifest battles of falsehood. Know that Moors need not to pick the locks to the gates of paradise by the means of petty or criminal theft. For behold, the key to salvation already rests within thine own hands. And yes, even though a portion of our nature is weakness, instability, and inconsistency, there is still a greater part of our nature that is divine. May Allah protect thee, guide thee, preserve thee, lengthen thy age, and give thee everlasting peace. Islam, Amen. Peace, 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 peace. Peace and love, fam. Peace and love.
Peace.
Peace, peace, and love.
mypdfbooks.com. That's books with a Z.
And once again, this broadcast was brought to you by mypdfbooks.com. That's books with a Z, well, reading fundamental. Also brought to you by binditbooks.com, where treasures are bound. Be sure to get your teas at Herbs of Mayat, Divinely Prepared, the Tea of Tea, Mayat Sons Teas, and check out all musical stylings at bhbaymusic.com by the noble Brian Hicks Bay. And for your everyday items and religious regalia, be sure to check out morrishaberdasher.com. And for that everyday especial Morris Strip, go by and check out morsachi.com. And all of these companies are powered by ALO Design Pros. Design your online business strategy today.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of meager means. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dreams. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't really. It ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun, it's an everyday thing. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night